bustling heart of a vibrant city, nestled between rows of tall, weathered apartment buildings, stood a quaint little haven known as Little Dreams Nursery. This was not just any ordinary childcare center, but a magical world for its tiny inhabitants, crafted with love and care by Emily Carson, its founder and soul. Emily, a woman in her late 30s, with a heart as wide as the ocean, had always harbored a deep affection for children. Her smile was a blend of warmth and kindness, lighting up her hazel eyes, making her the favorite of every child who stepped through the nursery's cheerful blue door. Her hair, often tied back in a practical ponytail, had streaks of silver that she wore like badges of her years of dedication. Each morning, as the city awoke with the hustle of commuters and the clamor of street vendors, Emily opened the doors of Little Dreams to a new day of adventures. She was there with her welcoming smile, greeting each child as they arrived, their faces brightening up at the sight of her. The nursery itself was a testament to her dedication, walls painted in soft pastels, shelves filled with books of every color and size, and corners dedicated to every kind of play imaginable, from dress-up closets to mini construction zones. Her day would start with the little ritual of gathering the children for morning circle time. Here, amidst the chorus of tiny voices, Emily felt most at home. She had an innate ability to turn every story reading into a captivating theatrical performance, much to the delight of her young audience. This was followed by a series of activities, arts and crafts, educational games, and the much-awaited outdoor playtime in the nursery's modest backyard, filled with laughter and boundless energy. Emily's approach to childcare was unique. She believed in nurturing not just the mind, but the soul of each child. Her interactions were filled with patience and understanding. It was common to see her down on one knee, listening intently to a child, validating their feelings, whether they were excited about a new pet at home or upset about a broken toy. To her, these moments were the essence of her work, more than just duties. They were opportunities to instill values of empathy and kindness in these young minds. As the day would wind down, the nursery transformed into a quieter zone, with children engaged in calm activities. Emily often played soft music, creating a tranquil atmosphere, aiding in the transition from the day's excitement to a peaceful evening mood. It was during this time that she would often reflect on her journey, how Little Dreams had started as a small idea in a corner of her heart and had grown into this beautiful reality. She had faced challenges, no doubt, especially in the early years, juggling financial constraints and the daunting task of establishing her brand of nurturing in a competitive city. Yet, her passion and unwavering commitment to her vision of providing a loving and stimulating environment for children to grow and flourish had seen her through. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow through the nursery windows, Emily would often stand by the doorway, watching the children reunite with their parents, their day's stories bubbling out in excited bursts. This was her daily dose of fulfillment, seeing the trust and love in the eyes of both parents and children. Little did she know her routine and the tranquil life of little dreams were about to be disrupted in a way she never could have imagined. One unremarkable Tuesday afternoon, as Emily was tidying up the nursery, a soft knock at the door interrupted the harmonious rhythm of the children's afternoon activities. Approaching the door with a sense of mild curiosity, Emily anticipated perhaps a late pickup or an unexpected visit from a parent. However, what she found left her momentarily stunned. Resting just outside the door was a small, unattended stroller. Inside, a child, no more than 3 years old, sat quietly, his eyes wide, with a mix of curiosity and confusion. He was dressed in a simple, well-worn jumper and clutched a small, threadbare teddy bear. The scene was so incongruous with the busy city life just beyond the nursery gates that Emily felt a pang of concern immediately. Attached to the stroller was a note, hastily scribbled and slightly crumpled. Emily unfolded it with gentle fingers, her heart racing with apprehension. The message was brief and poignant. "Please take care of my child." The simplicity of the plea struck a chord in Emily's heart. She scanned the street, hoping to catch sight of whoever had left the child, but the sidewalk was empty, save for the occasional passerby. Compelled by a deep maternal instinct, Emily brought the child inside, away from the curious eyes of the city. As she did, the other children in the nursery gathered around, their faces a mixture of excitement and intrigue at the sudden arrival of a new friend. Emily's mind was awash with questions and concerns, but she pushed them aside, focusing on the immediate needs of the child before her. The rest of the day unfolded like a dream. Emily cared for the boy as if he were one of her own, seamlessly integrating him into the nursery's routine. Yet, a part of her wrestled with the decision not to involve the authorities. She justified her actions by the child's evident need for care and a sense of belonging, something she could abundantly provide within the nurturing walls of Little Dreams. Evening arrived with its usual flurry of parents and laughter, and as the last child left, Emily found herself growing increasingly attached to the boy. His quiet demeanor and the way he observed everything with a sense of wonder and mild apprehension endeared him to her. She introduced him to the other children as a new member of their Little Dreams family, and they accepted him with the unconditional love and acceptance only children possess. That night, after the lights were dimmed and the nursery stood quiet and empty, Emily sat with the boy, reading him a story as he nestled close to her. The nursery, usually a place of vibrant energy and chatter, now echoed with a profound silence filled only with the soft cadence of Emily's voice. She knew that the next day would bring new challenges and decisions, but in her heart, Emily was resolved to face them with the same love and dedication that had always been her guiding light. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the windows of Little Dreams, nursery, Emily found herself wrestling with the haunting remnants of her nightmarish dreams. The unsettling images from her sleep continued to cloud her thoughts, but the reality of the new day demanded her attention. It was then that she began to notice the subtle yet inexplicable changes in Ben's behavior. Throughout the day, Emily observed Ben with a mix of intrigue and growing concern. His actions often seemed uncharacteristically mature for a child of his age. There were moments when he would pause and stare thoughtfully into the distance, as if contemplating matters far beyond the usual concerns of a child. But more startling were his unexpected displays of physical strength. On several occasions, Emily watched, astonished, as Ben effortlessly moved objects that would normally require the strength of an adult. She saw him pick up a heavy wooden chair as if it were as light as a feather, and on another instance, he easily carried a large box full of books, a task that would usually be challenging for a child. These feats of strength caught the attention of the other children in the nursery, who watched Ben with a mixture of awe and confusion. Their innocent chatter was replaced by whispers of wonder as they tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Emily herself struggled to comprehend these developments. She rationalized them as perhaps bursts of adrenaline or some unique but natural variation in strength. Yet, deep down, she felt a growing sense that something extraordinary was unfolding before her eyes. As night fell and enveloped the nursery in darkness, Emily's deepened. She prepared Ben for bed, her mind replaying the day's strange events. Sleep did not come easily, and when it did, it was troubled by the continuation of her unsettling dreams. In these dreams, the nursery transformed into a maze of shadows and eerie phenomena, with Ben at its center. The most disturbing moment came when Emily, within her dream, opened her eyes to a reality that defied all logic. Ben was standing before her, but not on the ground. He was somehow adhered to the wall, his face twisted into the same unnerving expression she had seen in her dream. His eyes glowed a deep, unsettling red, and he spoke in a language that was foreign to her ears, his voice resonating with a strange power. Jolted awake by this vision, Emily found herself gasping for breath, her heart pounding with fear. She rushed to Ben's room, driven by a desperate need to ensure his safety. To her immense relief, she found him there, sleeping peacefully in his bed, seemingly oblivious to the turmoil that his presence had stirred in her mind. With a sigh, Emily left the room, gently closing the door behind her. As she stepped to the quiet hallway, a chill ran down her spine. There it was again, the same strange, unintelligible words she had heard in her nightmare. The sound seemed to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once, filling the silent spaces of the nursery with its eerie cadence. Frozen in place, Emily strained her ears, trying to locate the source of the mysterious whispering. The words were indistinct, yet they carried a haunting quality that made her skin crawl. It was as if the very walls of Little Dreams were speaking in a language forgotten by time, a language that was not meant for her to understand. The realization that this was not just a figment of her imagination, but a real, tangible occurrence, filled Emily with a deep sense of dread. She turned slowly, half expecting to see a figure or a shadow lurking in the darkness. But there was nothing, only the familiar surroundings of the nursery, bathed in the soft glow of the night lights. The whispering ceased as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Emily in a deafening silence. Her mind raced with questions and fears. Was this some kind of residual effect of her nightmare, or was something truly unexplainable happening in the nursery? The logical part of her brain searched for reasonable explanations. Perhaps it was just the wind or the creaking of an old building. But the part of her that had witnessed Ben's inexplicable behavior and the chilling events of the night could not be so easily convinced. With a deep, steadying breath, Emily tried to compose herself. She knew she couldn't let her fear overtake her, not when she had a responsibility to all the children in her care, especially Ben. But as she made her way back to her own room, the eerie whispering echoed in her mind, a constant reminder that something was amiss at Little Dreams. As morning dawned, bringing with it the light of a new day, Emily faced a difficult decision. She needed to find answers, both for Ben's sake and for the peace of her own mind. The events of the past days were spiraling into a mystery that Emily could no longer ignore. The day unfolded with a tense undercurrent at Little Dreams nursery. Emily, still shaken by the events of the night, found her thoughts constantly drifting back to Ben and the mysterious whispering. The day was significant for another reason. It was the monthly evening gathering for the children, a time for songs, games, and shared meals. It was an event usually marked by joy and laughter, but today Emily approached it with a sense of apprehension. As the children gathered in the main play area, decorated with colorful streamers and balloons, the atmosphere was initially cheerful. Emily tried to put her worries aside, focusing on facilitating the activities. However, her attention was frequently drawn to Ben, who seemed more withdrawn than usual. Without warning, the situation escalated. Ben's demeanor changed abruptly. He became aggressive, lashing out at the other children during a seemingly innocent game. His actions were swift and startling, leaving both Emily and the children shocked. The nursery, typically a place of safety and fun, was suddenly filled with cries and confusion. Emily rushed to intervene, trying to calm Ben and protect the other children. But as she reached out to him, Ben's reaction was ferocious. In a swift, unexpected move, he grabbed a pencil from the nearby craft table and stabbed it into Emily's hand. The pain was sharp and immediate, causing Emily to scream out in shock and agony. At the sound of Emily's scream, a terrifying change came over Ben. His face contorted into a horrifying expression, his features twisting into something grotesque and frightening. It was as if the child she knew had been replaced by a creature from a nightmare. The other children, witnessing this transformation, began to scream in terror. The nursery, once a haven of happiness, had turned into a scene of chaos and fear. Ben, in his altered state, ran from the group, moving in a way that was unsettlingly animalistic. He used his hands and feet to scurry along the floor, his movements quick and erratic, like a wild creature. Emily, nursing her injured hand and trying to fight back her own fear, tried to restore order. The children were huddled together, crying and frightened, their trust in the safety of little dreams shattered. Emily's primary concern was their well-being, but she also knew she had to find Ben, who had disappeared into one of the back rooms. The joyful evening had turned into a nightmare. Emily, her hand throbbing with pain and her mind racing with fear, gathered the children and tried to console them. She knew she had to act quickly to ensure the safety of everyone in the nursery and to confront the terrifying reality that Ben, the child she had taken under her wing, had become something unrecognizable and deeply alarming. With the nursery echoing the cries of the terrified children, Emily, nursing the sharp pain in her hand, knew she had to take control of the situation. She quickly ushered the children into a safe room, her mind racing with a mix of fear and concern. Her primary goal was to ensure their safety, but she couldn't ignore the need to find Ben. Whatever was happening to him, he was still a child under her care, and she felt a deep responsibility towards him, despite the fear that gripped her heart. After making sure the children were safe and somewhat calmed, Emily cautiously ventured out to search for Ben. The nursery, usually filled with the sounds of joy and laughter, was now eerily silent, the only sound being her own footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. As she moved through the rooms, her eyes scanned every corner, every shadow, looking for any sign of Ben. Finally, she found him in a secluded corner of the playroom, his small body curled up, his breathing heavy and ragged. The aggressive, animalistic behavior he had exhibited was gone, replaced by what seemed like fear and exhaustion. Emily approached him slowly, her heart aching at the sight of the frightened child. The transformation she had witnessed earlier was nowhere to be seen, and in its place was a scared, confused little boy. Ben, Emily called out softly, her voice trembling. "It's okay, you're safe now." As she held Ben, Emily's mind was flooded with questions. What had caused his transformation? Was it some sort of medical condition, a psychological break, or something else entirely? While comforting the child, she noticed a peculiar mark on his neck, detail that sparked her curiosity amidst the chaos. Gently, she lowered Ben's sweater and was shocked by what she saw. On his back were strange symbols and an unreadable language etched into his skin. The sight of the mysterious markings sent a surge of confusion and alarm through her. What did these symbols mean? How were they connected to Ben's bizarre behavior? The immediate crisis averted, Emily returned to the other children, Ben in tow. Her mind was still reeling from the discovery of the markings, but she had to focus on the immediate needs of the children and address the aftermath of the incident. She called for emergency assistance and the parents of the children, explaining that there had been an incident without going into the terrifying details. One by one, the parents arrived, their expressions a mix of worry and relief as they collected their children. As the last child left the nursery, Emily stood in the now quiet room, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The strange markings on Ben's back added a new layer of mystery to the already baffling situation. She knew she needed to find answers, but where to start was a puzzle in itself. The day at Little Dreams Nursery had started like any other, but it had ended with more questions than answers and a feeling of unease that lingered in the air. After a long and tumultuous day at Little Dreams Nursery, Emily, with a heavy heart, informed the parents that the nursery would be closed the following day. The evening's events had left her exhausted and deeply troubled, and she needed time to process everything that had happened, especially the mysterious markings on Ben and his inexplicable behavior. That night, as she tried to find solace in sleep, her rest was once again disturbed by nightmares. The dreams were a jumbled mix of the day's events, filled with shadowy figures and an overwhelming sense of dread. In the midst of this chaotic dreamscape, Emily noticed a toy, a sinister-looking figure sitting in the corner of her room. Its appearance was blurry and indistinct, but it emanated an aura of malevolence. Waking up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, Emily's heart pounded against her chest. The toy from her dream lingered in her mind, its eerie image refusing to fade. It was then that a realization struck her. The toy she had seen in her nightmare bore a striking resemblance to the one Ben had with him when he first arrived at the nursery. Driven by a mix of fear and determination to uncover the truth, Emily made her way to the basement where the lost and found items were kept. The nursery was silent, the only sound being her footsteps echoing the empty hallways. As she reached the basement door and opened it, a sudden scream pierced the silence, making her jump. Her heart racing, Emily hesitated for a moment, but then, gathering her courage, she stepped inside. The basement was dimly lit, the shadows casting strange shapes on the walls. Emily's eyes scanned the room, searching for the toy. Suddenly, she felt a presence behind her. Turning around swiftly, her breath caught in her throat as she saw Ben standing there, his eyes wide and his expression one of fear and confusion. Without a word, Emily turned back to her search, her hands trembling as she sifted through the boxes of forgotten toys and items. Then, there it was, the toy from her dreams, lying in a corner, just as sinister looking as it had appeared in her nightmare. It was an old, wooden figurine, its paint chipped and faded, with strange symbols carved into its surface, symbols that mirrored those on Ben's back. As Emily gripped the old, wooden figurine, a tense atmosphere enveloped the basement. The air seemed to grow heavier, charged with an inexplicable energy. She turned to face Ben, her heart heavy with fear and concern. The transformation in Ben was startling. The once timid and confused boy now appeared aggressive and unpredictable, his eyes reflecting a deep inner turmoil. Ben's expression was one of intense anger, his features contorted in a way that was deeply unsettling. He let out a harsh, guttural sound that was jarringly out of character, a stark contrast to the quiet child she knew. His movements became jerky and erratic, as if he was struggling with an internal conflict that was manifesting physically. Emily, her heart racing with alarm, stepped back, holding the figurine out in front of her. The item seemed to be the catalyst for Ben's sudden change, and she instinctively felt it held some sort of power over him. Ben's reaction to the figurine was one of aversion. He recoiled slightly, his eyes fixated on it with a mix of fear and anger. The basement, usually just a storage space for the nursery, had become the stage for a frightening confrontation. Emily, facing Ben's aggression, tried to calm him down. "Ben, it's me, Emily," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "You don't have to be scared. I'm here to help you." But Ben seemed beyond reach, lost in his own agitated state. He continued to advance towards her, his actions unpredictable and fraught with tension. Emily, desperate to defuse the situation, kept talking to him, trying to penetrate the barrier of his frenzied state. She realized that the figurine, with its mysterious carvings and ancient appearance, was a key piece in understanding Ben's erratic behavior. Clutching it tightly, she knew she had to find a way to use it to reach Ben and bring him back from the brink of this unexplained and terrifying episode. In that tense moment, in the dimly lit basement of Little Dream's nursery, Emily stood determined to help Ben to unravel the mystery of the figurine and to restore peace to the place that had been a sanctuary for so many children. In the dimly lit basement of Little Dream's nursery, a frantic chase ensued. Ben, transformed and unpredictable, pursued Emily with an intensity that was both shocking and terrifying. Emily, her heart pounding in her chest, ran through the maze of storage shelves and boxes, trying to put distance between herself and Ben. In her panicked escape, Emily stumbled and fell, the wooden figurine flying from her grasp and crashing against the wall. A piercing scream from Ben echoed through the basement at the exact moment of impact. Emily, her mind racing, made a crucial connection. The figurine was linked to Ben's bizarre and frightening behavior. With newfound resolve and understanding, Emily scrambled to her feet and rushed to find something, anything, that could help her destroy the mysterious toy. She found a small axe used for minor repairs around the nursery and gripped it tightly. Her hands trembling but determined, she returned to where the toy lay. Ben, still in his altered state, was momentarily distracted by his own scream, giving Emily the opportunity she needed. With a swift, decisive motion, she brought the axe down on the figurine, severing its head. As the head of the toy rolled away, a blinding light burst forth, enveloping the entire house. The intensity of the light was overwhelming, forcing Emily to shield her eyes. The air vibrated with an energy that was almost tangible. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the light vanished, and Emily found herself enveloped in darkness. The next thing she knew, she was lying on the cold basement floor, the morning light filtering through the small windows. Dazed and confused, Emily slowly sat up, trying to make sense of what had happened. The basement was quiet, the the chaos of the night seemingly a distant memory. She looked around, her eyes searching for Ben, but he was nowhere to be seen. The toy, the source of the strange events, was gone as well. Its remnants vanished without a trace. It was as if the night's terrifying events had been erased, leaving only silence and unanswered questions. Emily made her way upstairs, each step heavy with exhaustion and confusion. The nursery was peaceful, the morning light casting a calm over the room that contrasted sharply with the night's horrors. As she stood in the quiet of the nursery, Emily grappled with the reality of what had occurred. Ben had disappeared, and with him, the mysterious toy and the bizarre events it had triggered. She was left with a deep sense of loss and bewilderment, wondering if she would ever understand the true nature of what had happened at Little Dreams Nursery. The morning had come, bringing with it a silence that was both a relief and a haunting reminder of the inexplicable and terrifying ordeal that had unfolded. Exhausted and still reeling from the night's surreal events, Emily headed to the bathroom to wash her face, hoping to clear her mind and steady her shaking nerves. The cool water felt refreshing, a brief respite from the chaos and confusion that had engulfed the nursery. As she patted her face dry, Emily gazed at her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at her looked worn and haunted, a stark contrast to the composed and cheerful caretaker she was known to be. She took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts, to make sense of the inexplicable occurrences that had unfolded. Turning to leave the bathroom, Emily paused for a moment, her eyes catching a glimpse of something in the mirror. Her heart skipped a beat. There, in the reflection, stood the shadowy figure of Ben, his silhouette faint but unmistakable. Emily's breath caught in her throat, a mix of fear and disbelief washing over her. She whirled around, but the room behind her was empty. No sign of Ben, just the lingering silence of the nursery. Slowly, she turned back to the mirror, but the reflection now showed only her own image, the shadow of Ben gone, as if it had never been there. A shiver ran down Emily's spine. Was it her mind playing tricks on her, a side effect of the stress and trauma she had endured? Or was it something more, a lingering connection to the mysterious events that had involved Ben? Emily stepped out of the bathroom, her mind a whirlwind of questions and uncertainties. The nursery, bathed in morning light, offered no answers, only the echoes of a night that had changed everything. She moved through the rooms, each step heavy with the weight of what had happened. The disappearance of Ben, the strange toy, and now the fleeting image in the mirror. All of it left Emily feeling unsettled and on edge. As she settled into the quiet of the nursery, trying to process the events, Emily knew that the mystery of what had happened might never be fully unraveled. The shadow of Ben in the mirror lingered in her mind, a haunting reminder of the boy who had vanished and the inexplicable events that had transpired at Little Dreams Nursery.